Okay, welcome to an emergency space and rocket review. It's I'm not bringing this one. This one's gonna have some pretty bad news in it. So uh, yeah. Okay. Well, if you guys haven't seen it yet, uh, around 9 p.m. last night, New Glenn NG-4, which was scheduled to launch on June 2nd, was out on Complex 36, Blue's pad, to do a hot fire test. A hot fire is just basically static firing the booster, and making sure that everything is good. There was no payload on board. Here's a shot from my buddy Jerry. This is from Jerry Pike over at NSF. You can see that the NG-4, the stack is there. There's no payload fairing on top. No payload during a hot fire test for Blue. Yeah, I don't have any better way to explain what happened here. Just watch this. Yeah, that's not great.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
That is a total failure. First stage, second stage, transporter, erector, pad, towers, gone. Yeah, it's, most of the buildings in the immediate pad vicinity are just obliterated and, gone. Do I think that'll buff out? I got pictures from D and Jerry who did a flyby, or a flyover. So this one's coming from D, who we'll talk to later on the flame trench. Guys, there ain't nothing left. The HIF got wrecked. I know, Rarest. I was watching NSF last night. I was the one that told Sawyer to mention the doors. So, yeah, we'll get through it. We'll get through a lot of it. How badly will this affect NASA's moon plans? Enough for them to have to change some things around for sure. Let's just go over kind of the immediate damage. The right-hand lightning tower is destroyed. It quite actually got ripped in half by the detonation. You could see where it got ripped in half right there and then fell over. And then snapped in two again. And it looks like it fell over with some speed, because when it fell over and snapped, this thing slid that way. That lightning arrestor was as tall as the tower, and it's just a mangled wreck. Now, the left-hand tower at Blue, guys, was at one point, it was for a crew access arm. So it's built a little bit more robust. The lightning tower on the right is a three-sided tower, or was a three-sided tower. The launch tower on the left is four sides, built much more like a fixed service structure than a lightning arrestor. It also had the lightning rod on the top. That's junk. It didn't collapse. It almost did, but yeah, there's Bob. Oh, I think Max is very, I just talked to him. He's not, he's gonna be, yeah, don't make that joke during Flame Trench, dude. Was the payload already on board? No. No, there was no payload. The payload was, I do believe, inside of the integration facility, or it might not, So unfortunate that this happened right after Blue were the ones to land several payloads for the Moonbase project next year. Yeah, it's, guys, this is bad. I haven't like really watched it in slow motion. I do know the rocket fell. It fell into the trench. Something went catastrophically wrong around the engine section. Now, just for some additional kind of clarity here, because I know you guys are gonna ask. Pat offline for what, 1 to 2 years, maybe. Yeah, Creeper, I know it's gone. It sucks, dude. I feel bad. Like, Blue are just starting to get their stuff together, but yeah. Surge, 7-month resub. Do we know what it did yet? No. See, Clayton, it's really hard to figure out what went wrong here. Now, keep in mind, guys, this is NG-3. This was the AST Space Mobile mission, which, unfortunately, their second stage had a little bit of a problem here, but their hot fire went a little bit different. This was the hot fire for NG-3. This was about 2 months ago, give or take. So what's supposed to happen here, pad deluge systems are supposed to turn on, and you're supposed to get a hot fire there. That's what it's supposed to do. Now, what do we know about the NG-4 stack? So this is the NG-3 mission. It's funny because they hot fired with payload on top, but they didn't do it this time. What do we know? So that booster right there is never tell me the odds. NTMTO. Never tell me the odds. That is the stage that Blue Origin has reused. They've landed it 2 times on Jacqueline on the second New Glenn flight and the third New Glenn flight. This one, the NG-4 stack, was not that. That was a new first stage. That new first stage was called No, It's Necessary, and there's pictures of the same stack being put on the transporter erector that we showed on Space News a little bit earlier. Yeah, Alpha, I've heard that. Let's not forget that depending on the root cause, it's also be. Yeah, Creeper, we'll get into that. Let me just give some kind of general overview, guys, and then we'll get into it. So, yeah, Aitor, I know. Hey, Topia, what's up? I'm glad to see you. You motivate me to learn English so I can understand. Have a great stream. Spasiba. Это хорошо. Spasiba. All right. So NG now stands for not going. It's not gonna launch here anymore. So, if you guys don't know anything about New Glenn, it is a gigantic freaking rocket. It's huge. One of the biggest ones flying. The only things that are bigger than New Glenn are Starship and SLS. This is a shot inside of Blue Origin's Horizontal Integration Facility, or HIF for short. This building is in the shot right here. It's this one right there. It's Horizontal Integration Facility. It's where they take the rocket and put it onto the launcher horizontally. Yeah, I know. Great name. So it's not just a clever name. So this was a brand new booster. Now, something to take into account, right? Never tell me the odds. The first New Glenn booster to come back and land. So that would be New Glenn GS, or Glenn Stage 1, serial number 2, I think. Just the second one. All right, it's never tell me the odds. After its first mission, okay, they swapped out all the engines for a newer version of BE-4s. I don't know. I've looked around for this information and I haven't seen anything. I don't know if No, It's Necessary, the one that exploded, so serial number 3, I don't know if that had those new engines on it. It might have. We don't know for sure. Chose poorly when they decided to name the booster. Yeah. Yeah, so once again, this something went horribly wrong during this hot fire. So that's the engine starting, right? And whatever happened, if you look just right there, right where my mouse cursor is, whatever happened there started more or less at the point where New Glenn's engine section or tail, or they just call it GS1 engine aft set. I think they call it an aft module. The GS1 aft module, the failure was basically right at the top of the aft module and the LNG tank. Now, New Glenn's first stage uses liquefied natural gas and liquid oxygen. The second stage, called Glenn Stage 2 or GS2 for short, uses liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen. No word on if the second stage was fueled at the time, but just given the sheer volume of the explosion, I'm going to say it probably was, but until we get official sources, I don't know for sure. Something went very wrong down here. Very wrong. You could see there's black smoke coming out, indicating that the black smoke there is indicating a fuel leak. I mean, it's hard to tell if it's black smoke or if it's LOX or whatever, because of just the lighting, because that it's all backlit, so it looks darker, but it probably, I don't know, we don't know for sure. So the engines are on in this picture. Some of them are on because, so this flashback here, guys, is that's the water from the sound suppression system. If we go and look back at this footage of the hot fire, you see a lot of water comes out of the flame diverter here, right? And it was lit up, indicating, well, this right here, right? So some of the engines are on in this shot right here. One of them, or two, or three, or five, is having a really bad day because of whatever's going on here. Now, here's the thing. It's hard to tell from NSF's angle. If you watch Spaceflight Now, they have a much better shot, but it was at this point right here where structural integrity of the aft module failed completely. Whatever is causing this down here, smoke to shoot out the sides, or fuel or LOX to shoot out the sides, is destroying the aft module. It's quite actually like putting it in a blender. And if we slow down Jerry Pike's footage here, watch the upper stage. See, there's the GS2 right there. Watch it. Did you see it? It was very quick. Let me just scrub back and forth. See how it seems to get smaller? The whole stack fell into the flame trench. It's just hard to tell from this angle. It was up like this, something went wrong, aft module loses structural integrity, and it fell into the trench and then exploded. You can definitely see right here the point where the second stage, because second stages aren't designed to be like kind of hung sideways when they're fully fueled. It immediately loses structural integrity and blows up. Now, so right here, what you're seeing, guys, is not, that's not an explosion. That's the tanks depressurizing. But the problem is, like with Ship 36, if you have a tank that depresses, now it's dousing everything with atomized rocket propellant. I don't want to say fuel on the fire, because an atomized fuel oxidizer mixture is worse, but fuel on the fire. And then whatever happened down here, the LNG tank on GS1 goes. And you have a ridiculous release of energy. Just, that's it. Like, flashbang through the door. That's a detonation. It's a freaking mosquito in here. He's dead now. That's a detonation. A detonation indicates a release of energy where your initial pressure wave is going past it's going faster than the speed of sound. That's the difference between a detonation and basically what rockets do, or anything else that uses fuel and oxidizer that humans use, which is called deflagration, which is combustion. That's a detonation. That is the entire...
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Still alive. Still alive. Still alive. Gotta get him. Gotta get the paw. Get out of here. Get out of here, you. There you go. Die. Yeah, no, not sorry. Mosquitoes belong in hell. So the aft end buckle around the transfer tube, it buckled basically right where the LNG tank is, right where the LNG meets the tail. Hey Martin, 22-month resub. Public servant had a 91-month resub. How's my mother? My mother's doing fine. That is a detonation. There is no... At this point, I would be very impressed if they found any discernible piece of that booster. Now, the problem is that it just detonated on your only launch pad. So that initial detonation goes out, and the pressure wave that follows it, see this, is enough to condense the atmosphere. Meaning that is a very, very tremendous release of energy. In line with what's called a thermobaric explosion. And once again, that thermobaric explosion is because the second stage buckled and poured fuel and oxidizer, well, fuel and liquid hydrogen all over everything. So if you notice, guys, and once again, it could be lighting, but see how this part down here has more soot in it. That's the first stage. That's the LNG. Up here, see how it's more bright? Hydrogen. More bright and more orangish. So hydrogen. And then they meet each other. See how the darker down here, but it's lighter up there? They meet each other and bye-bye. You have such a tremendous release of heat. Well, you can see the pressure vessels, the COPVs inside of New Glenn, first and second stage. You can see them flying off in different directions, Kerbal style. Yeah, this released so much heat that it caused a gigantic bit of convection here. Frankly, it's not on par with a like a nuclear weapon, but it's up there. This was an frankly insane release of energy. Not, and I know people are going to ask, not as bad as the N1 explosion in 1969. The Soviet N1 rocket, Flight 2, it blew up on the pad. It did that, but it was carrying 3 stages full of Karolox, which is a very energetic explosive. Last blocks these to theory. No, let me finish, please. That is the biggest explosion on the Cape. Yes, exactly. And yeah, it creates such heat. There was such crazy amounts of heat energy released, right, that you get a mushroom cloud. And the crazy part about this is that it's convecting, right? So all that heat went up really, really fast. All that hot air, it rose extremely quickly, and it actually causes a vacuum down here, which is why a mushroom cloud happens. And if you look, all the air accelerates down here. Whatever smoldering fun that was down here actually accelerates upwards, pushing the cloud up. Think like a hot air balloon, but without the balloon part. See how it accelerates? Yeah, ridiculous convection right there. That's in line with a thermobaric explosive, which is not far off. A thermobaric explosive basically splashes everything with fuel and then blows up, which is pretty much what happened here. That is a thermobaric explosion. Now, in terms of whatever the heck all that is, I have no idea. I have no idea why this happened. I don't know what that is. That is a frankly insane release of power. Those towers right there for scale are like, I think they're 600 feet tall. So that's like a 60-story building. And you can see that one of them is not there anymore. It's gone. The detonation was enough to blow the tower over. Now, these fires right here, so that's your hydrogen purge flame, LNG purge flame, and I'm not sure what that flame is for. I think... I think that's... These are for the tank farms, and that one I think is for fueling. It's...
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Yeah, it is a righteous explosion. Now, what caused this? Don't know. I know for a fact, though, that it was pretty much at the point where New Glenn's aft segment connects to the LNG tank. So right here. See this? See this area right there? Where the Comet thermal protection system meets the paint. Right in this area, right where my finger is. How do I know? How do I know for sure? Let's go back and we can look at Jerry's pictures. So this is Jerry Pike. Him and Dee did a flyover. So if we look at what's left, it's just, as Jerry put it, it's just absolute carnage. Dudes, I've never seen one this bad. This is worse than Ship 36. Way worse. Did they do cryo tests with this booster? I don't know. I'm going to have to go and look at what the testing regime was for this booster. So, guys, all right. What do we know? What do I do know for a fact? That's the transporter erector, okay? That is what they put the stage on. Actually, you know what? It's facing the wrong way, and I'll tell you what that means in a moment. The reason why I know that this explosion happened right where the aft segment meets the tank is because if you look at where the steel is bent in on the remaining tower, and you look at where it sheared this tower off here, the initial explosion happened right here, right where my mouse cursor is. What's there? If we go back over and look at Dave Limp's footage of the hot fire, what's there? Well, like I said, the third, if you look at these levels on the tower, the third level, so 1, 2, 3, is the one that's really damaged. What does that line up with? It lines up with the bottom of the LNG tank and the top of the engine section. It lines up perfectly with it. And this tower got severed in half at that same level. So whatever that detonation was, it originated right here. Which tells me the aft segment had an issue. The aft segment had enough of an explosion happen inside of it where it lost structural integrity, and the tanks buckled because there's nothing holding them up. They fell into the flame trench and exploded. This is carnage on a level I've never seen. I thought Massey's with Ship 36 was bad. This was a fully fueled vehicle. I'd be surprised if you found any discernible piece of this. The aft segment's gone. You're never finding a piece of that LNG tank. Maybe some charred fragments like over here. Second stage, you might find some of the engines, but it's very clear that whatever happened here originated in the engine section. And that's why I made it a thing to mention a little bit earlier that I don't know if this rocket, if no, it's necessary, which is the name of that stage. I don't know if it was carrying the newer versions of the B4 that they put on Never Tell Me the Odds, their upgrade, the Block 2, or if it wasn't. I don't know for sure. I hate to say it, so it looks like small nuke went off. It's not as powerful as a nuclear explosion, Clayton, but it's almost. It would be enough to even be remotely compared to it. Now, some things that I've noticed here. All right, guys, I'm not going to sit here and pretend. That's the transporter erector. So first of all, it's bent. This is a structure that should be, ideally, strong enough. That's that thing. See that gray thing? It should ideally be strong enough to hold this thing up and keep it straight. That's why they call it a strong back, because you don't want deflection on your rocket. You don't need the rocket doing this. You don't want it bending when you go to turn it upright. It's bent. The other thing that I've noticed is that it's actually upside down. Okay? Do you see the clamp arms right here? The clamp arms that hold the second stage in place on the pad. You see them, you can see them in the hot fire footage right here. See the clamps? See them right there? They're actually open in this shot. There. See the clamp? The clamps are facing down in the shot by Jerry. They're facing downwards. What does that mean? That means if the transporter erector was like this, right, and the rocket was like this, that explosion that was down here at the bottom was powerful enough to blow up the transporter erector and flip it in the air 180 degrees. That is the bottom of the TE right there. You know it's the bottom because it doesn't have any plating on it, and it also has all the cable tracks for all the electronics. Right here indicates a straight shearing force, which is in line with this. This right here, where the TE starts to taper out, okay? Where it starts to taper out. Guess what's there? The engine section. Now look. That taper, it tapers out and it goes to about here, right? Which is pretty much in line with something happening with the detonation with the LNG tank. That explosion was powerful enough that it cut through the TE right here like a knife through butter, and it flipped it like this. It flipped it forward. This part of the transporter erector is over here in the shots. It's in the flame trench. So the TE was like this, right? Facing this way. Well, I'll go with the picture. The TE was like this, right? And it blew up and went this way and that way. It sheared the bottom of the transporter erector off. Now, once again, a transporter erector is an extremely heavy piece of equipment. It's the launcher for the vehicle, and it's strong. It needs to be strong enough to be able to keep the rocket straight when you turn it upright. The clamp arms are facing downward, and the top of it is over there, meaning this thing, boom, flipped 90 degrees forward because of that detonation, which tells me, like I said, that's a straight shear. It sheared it right off, which is freaking nuts. And that's not, guys, that's not speculation. That is what happened. Like, that's the amount of force that it takes to do that to a transporter erector is on par with energy releases from nuclear weapons. Like, don't get me wrong, this was not as big. This is not the biggest nuclear. It's not comparable. It's not even close, believe it or not. If this was a nuke that went off next to this, you'd never find a piece of it. Now, like I said, this was a big explosion, but it wasn't. It's not on par with nukes. Nukes don't do that. There would be no tower left. You'd never find a piece of it. It would vaporize the entire thing. But the fact that it bent the entire transporter erector and flipped it 180 degrees, or 90 degrees forward, that's the bottom. The top of it is facing down. Now, other things here. All right. Other things to notice. The transporter erector, if you look, it's on the ramp that goes up to the pad. This part, I don't have any better way to say it. This part right here, that part should be over here. Okay? It should be over here. There's your hydraulic mechanism. The hydraulic mechanism for the TE is right there. So that spot where it tapers out should be where the top of the transporter erector is. So this thing was like this. The rocket was right here. It popped and went like that. It popped backwards and it sheared it off completely and flipped this thing like a twig. That's ridiculous. That is an insane amount of force to do something like that. Okay? Is it possible that it was a lightning strike? No. Or we would have seen you'd see the lightning bolt. So, now, other things. This is not the entire transporter erector. You're missing a piece. If we go back and look at Dave's video, actually, we can look at it from here. You're only getting from about what's aligned with the aft engine segment. So it's about from here forward. So where's the rest of it? I have no idea. Probably gone. If I had to guess, that's probably what's left of the bottom of the TE, and then maybe parts of it are over there. Everything else fell into the flame trench. Either that or these are all pieces of it and they're just mangled so much that we don't, yeah, it's hard to say. There's some environmental control systems right there. Oh yeah, the ECS bunker is totally destroyed. Once again, look. Now guys, these are steel beams. Now, and more importantly, I know someone's going to make the joke, don't. It's not steel, it's not jet fuel, it's LNG, okay? Second of all, these buildings are destroyed. They're destroyed. The that is the environmental control bunker. It's shot. It's shot completely. Now, I want to make something very clear here. That building looks like a hurricane hit it. Well, a detonation hit it. Guys, these buildings are hardened. That's concrete. See on the top? This is concrete. They're reinforced steel structures with concrete. This thing is designed to go off with a rocket next to it, so it can withstand it. It has, because it has in the past. This thing made it look like tinfoil. This explosion. I'm telling you, this explosion is ridiculous. It's straight up. The railings, all the railings here are gone. Like, it's the railings on the sides are gone. The ECS bunker is shot. Dude, that steel beam right there is like almost a meter wide. It's almost like a meter. I'd say probably about 60 centimeter. And it looks like the Hulk slammed into it. No, none of this is 1960s era. This is all more or less brand new. Blue started building this pad 8 years ago, and it reached operation last year. What's the chance the concrete pad is cracked beyond repair? All right, so you have your hydraulic ram mounts right here, and then, honestly, guys, the rocket, the base of the rocket should be where my mouse cursor is. If you notice, there is nothing there. What part is sitting on the bottom right? Oh, I was wondering what happened to that. So 1 post, 2 post, 3 post right there. There's the 4th one. Yeah, that's the 4th one right there. Like I said, it sheared the TE completely off. Yeah, if you notice the TE is kind of crooked, because the 4th post is over there. It's over by this purge line. Yeah. Wow. So not only did it flip that transporter erector, right? Flip it up in the air and forward, it sheared a piece completely off. and blew it backwards probably about 100 yards. Once again, that transporter erector is that thing right there. Now, if you're trying to wonder about your scale here, look at the flights of stairs. Just to get to the deck of the transporter erector, it's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, those are half flights. So 2 stories up. So that's 1 flight, 2 flight. So that's 2 stories up in the air to get to this. Yeah, if the pad is cracked, I'll get to that in a second. You guys want to talk about the pad. So let's go back and look at Jerry's photo. The pad deck is destroyed, guys. It fell into the trench. The pad deck's gone. There's nothing, like, you could see some of it right there, but you could see the some of it that is there is tilted downward because it's gone. If I had to guess, the pad deck probably did this. It probably bent downwards. Yeah, it will not buff out, dudes. Now, once again, you can see the staircase right there if you want to understand the scale here. This is an unprecedented explosion. Like, I've never seen anything like that. Trying to see, does D have a better picture of a side profile? Oh, that's good too. So the pad deck is right here. You can see these posts sticking out. Those are rainbirds. Those are the things that if we go back and look at, you know, the whole system under ideal conditions, see these things shooting out water? That's those.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Yeah. So this whole structure right here is held over a Gigantor flame trench. And here, I actually got permission from Tim Dodd to kind of show you guys this. Timmy said I could look at some of the footage here, which, Tim, thank you so much, dude. This is really helpful. So Everyday Astronaut had, about a year ago, posted a video. Actually, when did he make this? I think, yeah, it's a little bit over a year ago. Nope, don't need to seek leader right now. He had a tour with Jeff Bezos of the pad, and this is where you get to see this stuff up close. So it had a New Glenn Pathfinder on it, which was in the vicinity of the explosion, by the way. But this helps you kind of get the scale. Any damage to other pads? I don't know. It's hard to say. So Tim's video here really drives home the scale of what we're talking about here. This thing is absolutely gigantic. Well, was absolutely gigantic. It's way bigger than it looks from the air. That's the TE. This is I would like to remind everybody that is the structure that flipped upside down and sheared in half from the explosion. That thing, that big thing that's next to them, the gray thing, it flipped end over end. This thing that Jeff's pointing at. See how thick those dang beams are? It sheared those like cutting a knife through butter. Do you think the cost of cleanup and repair would be more or less than the construction? Phil, I'll talk about this a little bit later, dude. I kind of want to go through this kind of step by step before Flame Trench starts. If I was Blue right now, I would just go clear some area to the north of here and start building another pad. I would not even bother with this. I'm serious. Don't bother. Now, don't get me wrong. Blue is a big company. They could probably do both of these things at the same time. Honestly, starting from a clean slate, and we already know they wanted to build another New Glenn pad. Jeff actually says this in this video from Tim, that they want to build another New Glenn pad slightly to the north. I would just start on that. Yeah, I would just start on that. Skip to 9x4. Honestly, I think Blue has the bandwidth to do all three of these things. You have to start cleaning up this pad start on 36B and start on 9x4. I still personally think that 9x4 should not, you can't put a 9x4 together like that. Well, I'm not going to say you can't. Anything is possible. I really don't think it behooves Blue to horizontally integrate a rocket that big. New Glenn 9x4 is a extended variant of New Glenn, like the prime one that we just saw pop. It has a much bigger upper stage, and it has a lengthened first stage, and it has a 9-engine section. I honestly do not think that you're going to be like there. You could, like, don't get me wrong, you could. I don't think Blue wants to horizontally integrate one of those things. I have a personal theory that they want to use high bay 1 in the VAB and stack in there and use 39B. But there's no evidence to that. Nobody has ever integrated a rocket that's 400 feet tall horizontally. No one's ever done that. The closest we got to that would be the N1. And the N1 is about the same size in terms of height, not width, as New Glenn 7x2, which is the one that's flying now. Yes, Fluffy, that's why I wanted to get to that. So note the flights of stairs. All right. That thing got thrown into the air. So it's attached, the transporter erector attaches on a gigantic gusset and clevis, right? And at the very bottom of New Glenn, there's, I don't know what they call it, but just a reaction frame is what this is called. This is the piece that physically holds the rocket to the pad. The transporter erector just takes this thing and stacks it vertically onto the pad deck, which is this piece, this metal piece that's behind me. Hey, Apocalypses. That's already happening. Yes, I was going to get to that, but I'm trying to keep things in order. Yeah, I'll show you in the disaster pictures. But yeah, see, there's one of those rainbirds that spray the water on the pad. This whole mechanism will move on that hinge right there. And no, it's not using that hydraulic. That is a damper. That's a dampening device. Not dampening, it's a damping device. Dampening is making something wet. Okay. Damping is slowing something's movement. Or, well, yeah, more or less. The big hydraulic mechanism is down under here. That's, yeah, under a pile of shmoo in the disaster pictures. And I want to just scrub through a little bit more Tim's video here. So once again, this is Everyday Astronaut. If you guys want to watch his whole pad tour with Jeff to understand what's going on here, I'll link it up in both chats. Please go subscribe to Tim. He actually, I asked him about it this morning. I'm like, hey, can I show some 36 footage of you and Jeff? And he's like, yeah, man, do it. I'm like, you know, I want to do it for reasons. He goes, no, all good. So yeah, Tim did give us permission to look at snippets here. So, all right. So this is the pad deck right here. This sits over the trench. You can see the start of the deflector for the trench right there. Guys, I don't have any better way to say it. You see where that lift is? That's where the pad deck is. It's down there. And you can tell from the lift that that is a misleading amount of down. There is a concrete slab, is what it's called. See the slab? Slabs go horizontally in concrete. If concrete is going up, it's a column. There's a gigantic concrete slab there that holds the other end of the pad deck in position. So one part of the pad deck is on one side of the flame diverter, and the other one is sitting on this concrete slab. I don't have any reason to believe that that slab exists anymore. It might. It's possible. It's pretty strong. That'd be fun to go down on a BMX. Yeah. Where they're standing, I'm pretty sure doesn't exist anymore. I'm fairly confident it's down there, probably about 50 feet or about 15 meters that way, because that's the height of the flame. This metal piece is if it's intact, it's down there. I know this because if we go back and look at the disaster footage or the pictures from Jerry and D, you can see there's part of it, and part of it's right there. Part of it. There's 2 rainbirds, but those rainbirds are crooked, so yeah, that's gone. This picture where Tim and Jeff are standing, there's nothing there. That's just where they're standing in this picture, guys, is like where my mouse cursor is. Like if the pad deck went out here, right? And they're standing right there. It's now I don't want to sit here and denigrate Blue or anything. It sucks. This stuff happens, like with Ship 36 or Amos 6 with SpaceX. Like, it happens. This is bad. It's pretty bad. Like, this is bad. Whatever happened here was enough to shear that thing, and it was enough to shear that, and it was enough to obliterate the right lightning tower. Obliterate it. There is all sorts of damage here. The whole pad collapsed in on itself. There's nothing useful here, guys. I'm maybe the ramp, maybe. But here's the thing: with this magnitude of an explosion and the amount of energy that got put out here, superheating concrete makes it a little bit angry. Superheating concrete can get it to not crack it. I think it has something to do with concrete porosity. It ruins it. So honestly, let me put it to you like this. All right, watch. It goes. Anything that's inside of that fireball, any concrete, is pretty much toast. You have to recast it. I say pretty much. There might be some that they save. But you got to remember that concrete on the ramp right here, that has to hold the booster up when it's rolling to the pad. So, and this concrete is not like, I mean, it's thick, right? But it looks like it's bare. This is earth. There's dirt below it right here. Now, there's not dirt over here. This is a hollow structure for GSE and ground equipment and whatnot. But any concrete, I would say basically from here forward is toast. You got to get rid of it. It's been superheated. It looks fine, right? And it's not that it might be fine, but do you want to risk that? It's not like you can. I mean, they could drill core samples into their own concrete if they really wanted to, but then you're just putting a bunch of holes in it anyway. Yeah, this is, yeah. I would not be using any of this. It's concrete that got superheated. SpaceX had to do the same thing with Massey's, guys. Anywhere that Ship 36's explosion, sorry, another bug. Anywhere that Ship 36's explosion touched, SpaceX ripped up all that concrete and put new concrete down. You don't want to risk porosity in your concrete. Unironically, good explosion visibility map on Google Trends. Yeah, that's from Space Engineer. That's pretty cool. Well, not really. But, yeah, guys, this is toast. Yeah. Where they're standing right now is gone. That this doesn't exist. In this shot from Tim's video. Like, I'd be amazed if they found the reaction frame. This kind of hexagonal circular piece that holds the rocket to the pad. I'll be amazed if they find it. What's left of it might be down in the trench. Might. Does Blue have another lot to start from scratch? I'll get to that in a second. Let's see. There's another thing that I wanted to show you. So Tim has a shot from, sorry. Tim has a shot from up on the tower. Now, this is the tower that's still standing. And he has a shot from the, actually, let's go backwards a little bit here. This is when they go up the elevator. Now, they're up on the tower. So once again, this is the tower that's still standing right now, even though, like, look at the size of these beams. The explosion was enough to bend one of those like licorice. When I say that beam's almost a meter thick, that's what I mean. It's huge. It's a strong structure, and it actually moved it around like it was a slinky. Weather Nation has a good shot. Okay. That's good. So, yeah, there. This hole from about here forward is behind me. This is all down. It's down in the trench or gone. The transporter erector, the top of it, this part over here is over here, and the bottom of it is over there, and then a piece of it is over there. By this purge flame line tank. This tower is, the explosion hit this post. I'm 100% sure of this. It hit that post, and then the tower fell that way. The top of the tower is over there in Jerry's pictures. See? There's the lightning. That's the lightning arrestor. It's over there. Now, what's this structure over here? That's their first stage test. It's a first stage test stand where they test the aft module and the forward module. Revue explosion from Gigabit. Yeah, that's crazy, Badojo. I've seen that. The tower fell on these lines right here. See those lines? Those are the water lines that power the Rainbirds. That's all junk. That's not... I wouldn't trust it. A tower fell on it. Was everybody safe? Nobody was hurt. Yes. Nobody was hurt. So, yeah, fellas, the pad deck is probably down there, and then the gantry here is gone. It's in the trench. And that's what I mean about superheating concrete. It'll break if you superheat it. Yeah, just freaking awful. Let's see, what else does Tim show here? Look at the oxygen storage tank. I'll get to the rest of the GSE in a second. I'm talking about the pad and the towers right now. So, Jeff. So that's the HIF over there, and that is a second stage test article fixture. And the first stage Pathfinder, the one that's on the erector in Tim's video, is sitting over there. Those are all probably hosed. I mean, well, they might be fine. I don't know. You gotta check. That tower on the left is gone. That's destroyed. Now, so I'll get into pad structures now. So what are we looking at over here? To the northwest of the Slick 36 pad, you have the tank farms. So you have four principal tank like kind of clusters here. At Slick 36, because the first and second stages use different fuels, you have two sets of tanks, one for LNG, one for hydrogen. And then you have one set of LOX tanks and one set of nitrogen tanks for pressurization. If we go over here, so Tim in his video, he's on this tower and he's looking this way. So this is actually an older picture, but your hydrogen is here. That's hydrogen. That's LNG. That's liquid oxygen. And then there's a nitrogen farm and a nitrogen expansion right here. This piece right here, like I said a little bit earlier, that's your environmental control systems bunker. That's destroyed. That's the one that looked like it got hit by a tornado. The lightning tower is over here somewhere. That's, like I said, there's just a crater. There's no trench left, fellas. I'd be surprised if that the deflector is intact, it's probably not. The tank farms don't look too bad, but I would not, you know, and I learned this from watching SpaceX at Slick, you know, with Slick 30, not Slick 36, with Ship 36. If you heat up the tanks like that, you probably don't want to reuse them. But let's go back over here. I'm trying to see if we can get a little bit of a higher up view. Oh, whoa. Right off the bat, dudes. Junk. Junk. Don't even bother. Junk. Don't use that. It's toast. Scrap metal. Something hit that thing at a very high speed and dented the bulkhead. I would don't use that. The reason why is because these tanks hold stuff at pressure. They hold stuff at pressure. That's why they're all pill-shaped. Right? That's also the reason why rocket fuel tanks are pill-shaped. The pill shape affords you, when everything is at pressure, you're pushing on every single point on the tank is being pressed on with equal pressure, right? Because you have two spheres at one side and then you have a cylinder. Your outward pressurizing force, the outward force resulting from pressurization will put equal load on the entire tank, right? Which is why tanks are pill-shaped. That's why on rocket engines, they're pill-shaped too. You put a dent in the bulkhead like that, even if you bend that back into position, the metal is still fatigued in that area, and you are opening yourself up to pushing on the tank on that fatigued area and creating non-uniform, creating a weak spot, basically. You don't want that. What does this mean for moon missions? I'll get to that. That tank's hosed. Whatever. I think this is an accumulator for HasGas because it's connected to the purge flames. Those purge flames look okay for what it's worth. All these little chunks are probably just bits of aluminum that didn't burn off from the initial explosion. Yeah, but that tank's shot. You need another one. Let me see if we can. Yeah. All right. This is a picture from D over at NSF. These tanks got burnt. Oh. When your heat exchangers are falling over like dominoes, you got a big problem. Like I said, that shows just the violent force of this freaking blast. Why didn't the tanks go? Were they empty? I do believe that the fire that kind of ensued after burned off most of it. So in this shot right here, dude, if you look right there, that's the accumulator tank that I was telling you guys about, or at least I think it's an accumulator. That would be my guess. That's this thing. You could see very clearly that was on fire, so it blew. Something broke right there. Like, see the burn marks? It was on fire. And believe it or not, I think most likely a check valve in the GSE design probably saved the tanks from blowing up. Yeah, a check valve. Look, if you have something at high pressure like this, you're always going to want to put a safe into it. A safing system, a mechanical safing system, because one thing you never, ever want, in pretty much anything that has to do with anything that's high pressure, you never want to not be able to drain the tank if you need to. So I'll bet you check valves, either that or where the explosion happened, it probably severed these lines and they probably just depressed into the flame. Or a check valve stopped it or something. Tangential question. What is your knowledge on insurance claims? I don't know if insurance covers it here because insurance is usually for just flight. Any shots of the lighthouse? Lighthouse looks to be okay. Yeah, check valves, Teflon. Yeah. Honestly, I wouldn't trust any of these tanks. The ones that got burned here, they are going to heat treat the metal. If it burned through the paint, which it did right there,
Discovery,
you
go
can
at throttle up.
definitely see bare metal and you can see rust. If it burned through the paint, nah. These are LOX tanks over here. That's nitrogen. That's hydrogen. That's LNG over here. These are your heat exchangers. Your environmental control system bunker, which is basically a gigantic HVAC system to keep the rocket cool. That's destroyed. What else? Let me see if we have a far out shot from D. No. What about Jerry? Yeah. Okay. So, cool thing is that the original Slick 36, which is the only historical structure left here, that blockhouse survived. Actually, if you were inside of it, you'd probably be okay. The reason why they never got rid of the original Slick 36 blockhouse, that's where they used to launch the rockets from. Once upon a time, you were out at the pad with the rocket and you watched the damn thing launch through a periscope. They haven't done that in a long time. But see the 3 periscopes right there? Like literally like submarine, somebody's watching the thing because you're that close, right? They probably didn't destroy the Slick. Well, I know this for a fact, so they didn't destroy it because it's full of asbestos. So they just kind of said, okay. That's why most of these blockhouses are still there. But you can see there's some GSE tents over here. Toast. The Pathfinder's over there. Dude, you're getting substantial pieces of debris all the way down to the HIF. Now, there was some speculation that the HIF may have been on fire. I don't think it was on fire. Some crap definitely landed on the roof up there, some pieces. It wasn't on fire. It was the building in front of it. This thing, which is another GSE tent, if I'm remembering correctly, that building burned down. What is the HIF? The Horizontal Integration Facility. The HIF is where they build the rockets. So this is a shot inside of that building of them putting together the stack that blew up. The fire alarms went off in the HIF. Okay. Now, yeah, rocket science, I'd be very curious where you got that information. If you can give me a good source other than something that someone said to some other person or that you saw in a Discord forum, I'd be very interested in it. Now, one thing that we do know about the HIF is that if we go and watch NSF's footage from, well, let me see. How am I going to show this? Give me 1 second. Let me go to my buddies. That's a space flight. If we go and find shots of their footage from last night, and I was the one that pointed this out to Sawyer. I don't know. Maybe I wasn't the first one to notice it. It doesn't really matter. It's not a contest or anything. So the HIF has 3 big sliding doors on the front. And if you notice, right, in this picture,
tower on the left is...
There we go. So that was Ryan talking. If you notice, light is shining through the doors. You could just barely see it in this shot. This was a little bit later after like all the lights or everything quieted down, but you could see right there. There's light shining through. Light shining through those doors, which should be sealed, means that the detonation found its way to the front of the HIF. And blew the doors in. So we know at the very least there was an overpressure inside of the horizontal integration facility. Now, the unfortunate thing here, and it's hard to say what that means exactly, is that the only other New Glenn first stage was in there. That was New Glenn's second and third flight stage. That's Never Tell Me the Odds. There's the 2 of them next to each other. That's Never Tell Me the Odds and Know It's Necessary. It was in there. We know because this picture was from actually like a week ago, week or a little bit more. Does the HIF have doors on both ends? Yes. It has, yeah, doors on both ends. So, never tell me the odds, which is this one over here, was from Flight 2 and Flight 3. This one, which is called No, It's Necessary, or was called No, It's Necessary, is the one that is no longer with us. Yeah. So Aqualux, on the front, they have a door that opens up like a hangar. On the back, they have a door that slides sideways in 3 segments. And on NSF's footage last night, you could see light. You could see these lights through the door, which means that an overpressure shock found its way into the HIF. Guys, I don't mean to doom at all. Like, I'm not trying to be a jerk. Like, there's the 3 doors right there, and there's a person-sized door for scale if you want to understand how big this building is. Do we know if the front of the HIF is there? Like, do we know if it's even there? Like, are we certain that the front of that thing is still attached? Because if a pressure wave if a detonation wave that's like not as powerful as a nuclear blast, but like maybe half as powerful came forward here and hit the 2 doors in the front, those 2 doors are going in. They're gonna get blown into the HIF. And clearly, whatever did get in there, it was powerful enough to break the seams on these doors. To basically, those doors are like this. It bent them like that because we could see into the hangar. Are we even sure that the front of the HIF is there? Like, I don't mean to be a jerk, but like, I mean, if you just kind of calculate the force of the force that a pressure wave moving a detonation wave, which is moving faster than the speed of sound, hits, what is the force in pounds, or the dynamic pressure that was put on the front of this in PSI from a detonation of that size? Like, it was enough to blow one of the towers off of its hinges and make it fall over. It was enough to flip the transporter erector. I mean, now granted, this stuff is kind of farther away. The front of the HIF right here is from pad epicenter. It's 500. Oh, geez, it's only 570 meters away, so it's a quarter mile away. Are we even sure that that front door is there anymore? Actually, Aqualex, I rescind my previous statement. It's using a tri-slider. So it has the same door on the front and the back. You can see that it's a tri-slider right there. I DM'd you the back of the napkin amounts on the napkin math for the force exerted on the sheared off part of the transporter erector. The TE, according to Dave Limp, weighs 4 million pounds. We will say that the sheared off part weighs 2 million. Points to around 900,000, 2 million pounds, or around 900,000 kilos. I'm going to assume that it was thrown 60 meters, assuming that the TE experienced 0.25 of a second of acceleration. The acceleration would have been 1920 meters a second squared from force equals mass times acceleration. It would roughly equal 1,728 meganewtons of force. Take that with a grain of salt. Ooh. Yeah, like I said, are we sure that that's there? I don't know about the HIF, but Eric Berger said never tell me the odds was not damaged. I think never tell me the odds only saving grace is that in this picture, I know that this is the southeast corner of the HIF. Don't ask me why I know that. That means that camera shot is over here looking this way, and the first never tell me the odds is right here. So maybe. I'll be 100% honest with you though. If I was Blue, I would probably just take that thing apart and inspect everything, literally down to like the nuts and bolts. Because you don't know what are you gonna do? Launch it sometime soon? No. It's if you got time, take it apart. It's in the opposite corner. It's not though. Oh wait. Well, hang on. Oh my gosh, you're right. It is. It's not. It's the opposite corner. You're right. You're right. Because the transporter erector. Ooh. Hoo, 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 hoo. It's right there. It's not here. It's over there. Sorry, I'm just scrolling up. So, um, you work there in console. It's got some water damage, but it seems to be no significant fire damage. So rocket science, it set off the fire suppressors. That's probably what saved it. Well, wait a minute though, dude. You know, Berger and everybody else is saying that the booster is undamaged, but that means that that thing got showered with the fire suppressant, and everything else in here got showered with fire suppressant, including the second stages, which have SOFI on. Ugh, yuck. Eric said it was damaged, and then he immediately said it was false. But he immediately replied to that a couple of minutes later and said that that's not true. Nobody saw the reply, though. But, dude, this sucks. Guys, it doesn't bring me joy to sit here and do this kind of analysis. This sucks. It sucks. This is junk. Everything here is toast. Everything is caca. Oh, hold up a second. That's where the rest of the transporter erector is. It's overboard. Oh, there it is. I was wondering where the rest of it went. I assumed it had fallen into the flame trench, but no, it's just over there. Just one thing to note here, fellas. If the bottom of the transporter erector is sitting over there, overboard, like off the ramp, and the railing that's next to it is not is more or less intact. With this, that means it flew over there and landed over there. It didn't like slide off the side, or else the railing wouldn't be there. So it flew into that position. That piece is what likely hit the tower. Oh, that's a good point. I bet you a piece of the T hit the tower leg. Wow. The TE hit the crew tower and took it out. Yeah, I'm actually amazed. I'm actually amazed that that thing took a hit from a piece that big and was okay. That's insane, actually. So, well, there's the other side of it over there. Huh. Yeah, I know, Oculus, right? It's crazy. Fellas, I have a little bit of a different hypothesis here. Well, if you guys are saying that this side hit that tower, I'm going to go ahead and guess that that side probably hit that tower, right? Like, I think that would be fair. Bada boom. Yeah, right. But if that position, the final position of this doesn't jive with where the tower landed. But guys, okay. Here's where I'm getting confused. Now, and once again, see this right here? That's a piece of the transporter erector. That is a piece of the gray thing. It's a piece of the gray thing that they're putting the rocket on in this picture. So, this. Now, that piece particularly is this thing right here. See this triangular piece? It's that. One of those, see the X brace right there that's plated? One of those is on the left side of the tower. We can see it. Where are we? Where are we? Nope. Hey. Over. Nope, that's the wrong picture. You can see it right there. See the plated bracing? And the triangle is right there. Now, that is what's left of the other one. Holy crap. Guys, I am frankly failing to understand what type of forces we're dealing with that split the damn thing like a twig. And I'm not... So, like, I understand my original theory about the detonation shearing the top of the transporter erector off, right? And then flipping it end over end is still a thing. Where I'm getting a little bit confused now is the sides. So the transporter erector, like, the top of it blew off and it flipped over. That's that piece right there, right? But the sides of the TE. So if this piece blew off and flipped over, the sides blew outwards. Give me a few minutes. I'm good. Let me figure it out, dude. Let me figure it out, homie. I'll figure it out. Stop. I got it. So, okay. What's getting me here is that if you had an explosion right here, this piece, right? Maybe I'm just failing to understand the sheer volume of, like, the sheer amount of energy released here. But this bottom of the transporter erector split in half on its long axis. So if my finger guns, are those triangular pieces, right? And you had an explosion that ripped the top of it off, and my fingers are the triangular pieces, right? They blew outwards towards the towers, right? What gets me is that the amount of force, the position of an explosion here to shoot that thing off into the towers on either side would really need to originate from, like, this area right here. It would need to originate from inside of the transporter erector. To blow this thing in half, like, you have the sides of the TE, to make them go out like that, an explosion here wouldn't do that. A detonation, it would just bend it. Well, I was going to say it would just bend it backwards, but the T is enclosed. It's a lot of surface area. The auto couple is there. Rocket, sorry, like, I know this sounds dumb, but I played enough Kerbal Space Program to know about explosions and how they Kraken strike things, right? Like, an explosive propagation, I know Kerbal is not the analog for that. But, dude, to do that, to shoot these pieces off, because remember, guys, they went up. The pieces went up. They had to have gone up. They had to blow up into the air. You know how I know? Once again, it went over the railing. The railing is still there, and the transporter, a piece of the TE, is behind it. So that means it went up in the air and over the railing. Simultaneously over here, that piece of the transporter erector, which is the other side, that's the triangle piece that should be right here. That got some distance, dude. Let me put it that way. This piece should be right here. And that is not a small piece. That is gigantic. Like, look at it next to the lift. Something. Did the GSE break? Now I'm not so sure. Isn't there a video of the event? Yeah, ARJ, look. So they're going to hotfire NG-4. Maybe the disconnect popped, then chain of events. Look at the base of the strongback. You saw it too, Hokey, didn't you? Something popped down there before the detonation. I saw it. Watch right where my mouse cursor is, right there. Because once again, the pieces of the T that I'm talking about are right here and right here. Watch right where that cursor is. I'll slow down Jerry's footage here. Right there. See that? I sadly have to say, oh no, it's an awesome looking explosion. And Mirbon Monarch, I mean awesome, like it like awe, like I'm in awe. I have no words. I didn't stream last night, guys. Like I didn't pop in and do an emergency space news because I was just sitting here watching this over and over again going, I had to wait until today to kind of collect my words. First stage energy went into the detonation. It would be 3 to 4 kilotons of TNT. Oh, geez. You just... Is that cloud the deluge? This cloud right here is the deluge system. Yeah. If this is indeed a GSE-induced failure, hypothetically, then the BE-4s are okay and Vulcan might not be screwed too. Well, Hokey, that's why I wanted to know. And I guess we'll get into the more Q&A stuff, like where I'm talking, like regular EJ stream. I just wanted to kind of get everybody up to speed here. Do we know if they had those if they had Block 2 BE-4s on No It's Necessary? Do we know? Because they swapped to an upgraded BE-4 when they flew Never Tell Me the Odds on Flight 3. I'd be surprised if they didn't. Dak, you say yes. I'm curious, do you not cover Blue Origin launches? Why would I not cover Blue Origin launches? They didn't fly with Block 2s on Flight 3. They swapped all the engines out, Ator. Yes, they did. What engine popped in the test stand? I don't think Blue had something pop in the test stand. After New Glenn Flight 2, they are all Block 2. Dak, how do you know? Like, I'm sorry, I'm looking for information. I believe you. How do you know for sure? They swapped them out, but they didn't swap the Block 2 as far as I know. I could have sworn that they did, dude. I don't think that's right. The tank and the 2-cat blew up. Yeah, that was just the tankage. My dad works at Nintendo. Oh, that sucks, man. Inside the TE, there's fuel. It's only hydrogen, though. But Ojo, it's only hydrogen inside of that TE. Well, actually, I don't know that for sure. But it only has the second stage fueling lines and a couple of other commodities here and there. There was this engine explosion at Zeke's a few months ago. I think the detonation started in between the rocket and the TE. See that? That tells me the tail. It's Glenn stage 1 tail. But dudes, what's getting me here is that like there's really no other explanation. It had to have come from this area here. But what I'm getting at is, dude, to unzip the transporter erector and take this entire piece of metal and throw it about 20 meters that way and have it hit the damn tower. That explosion would have to come from inside of the transporter erector. Unless that unless this explosion from New Glenn was just that freaking powerful, which it was, right? This is a fuel air detonation. The initial pulsing fireball was what set the cloud off. Dak, you worked there? Right on, right on. Thank you. Appreciate it, man. See, because Dak, I'm not going to lie to you. So first of all, you know, like now that we're getting more into the QA stuff, hopefully I stayed pretty factual there with kind of what's going on. And second of all, look, a lot of people that watch this stream work at Blue. I know that, you know that. Look at me. You guys will be fine. Chin up. This happens. How you're remembered is how you deal with it, right? So let's get out there, build a new pad, and go. I know it's well, people are going to say, well, it's a little bit more complicated. No, it's not. No, it's not. I'll be cheering you on every step of the way. You got this. It'll be fine. All right? It'll be okay. Like, the pad, T, whatever, dude. Whatever. You know how to make one. Making another one's not going to be that big of a deal. It always takes longer the first try. Like, chin up, dudes. This blows, don't get me wrong. Like, I hate sitting here and analyzing this. Like, I don't want to bring this type of analysis. The type of analysis I would love to bring is showing GS1's land on Jacqueline. That's the kind of stuff I like watching, but I do this to obviously be factual and just show the magnitude of the explosion. Like, but I'll say exactly what I said when Ship 36 popped at SpaceX. Look, they'll be back. What, are they not going to be back? Actually, I said SpaceX will, you know, I said SpaceX will fix it quickly because I thought they were just going to rebuild it. Turns out Ryan was right there. He said it's going to take longer. But I said if they just rebuilt Massey's the way it was, they wouldn't have taken as long, right? But SpaceX opted to redo the entire thing, and now Massey's is 1,000 times better. That's what Blue will do, guys. Now, yeah, I think you guys will be all right. I mean, this sucks. It's definitely a gut punch, but whatever, dude. Just build another one. It's just concrete and steel, man. It's not going to take as long as it took the first time to get New Glenn operational. You know why? Because you know how to make a New Glenn operational already. Don't worry about it. Now, I'll be honest. I'm very curious if this was GSE. I don't think so. But honestly, to rip the TE in half like that and shear the top off, the explosion... Yeah. You'd need a lot of force to unzip the damn the bottom of the transporter erector. Potentially, you'll have a better pad and launch system. Yeah, exactly. Guys, I think out of anybody that is a pundit for spaceflight that doesn't work in the industry, I at least have a taste of experience here when it comes to your launch pad blowing up in your face. It's literally, well, not literally, we're not reading about it. It's actually like the worst feeling ever to see all your work just go up in flames with everybody watching. Awful feeling. Would not recommend. Yeah. What caused the aborted static fire at 8 p.m.? Which rocket, Rarest? The fire at the second stage could be the top of the erector hitting the upper part of the rocket. That's right, Yogvan, yeah. The TE's mass will deflect the pressure waves out before the TE itself starts moving. Yeah. True, yeah, okay. Is this the Apollo 1 of New Glenn? No. Don't compare stuff to Apollo 1. Because people died. Nobody was hurt here, which is great. Yeah, something big and heavy. The bottom of the transporter erector. See this piece that's behind my melon right there? That hit that for sure. But the crazy thing is, Victory, is that if you look at how this is bent, right? If you look at how all that's bent, that means whatever hit it looks like it came in this way and then bounced off and down. So it went out, up, bounced off and down, which means that these 20-ton fragments of at least 20-ton fragments of the transporter erector were at least 30, 40 meters up in the air, or about 100 feet up. That's how powerful that explosion was. Confirmed NG-3 had upgraded engines. Yep. I was on the back porch and we saw the whole sky light up, but not like a rocket launch. It looked a lot like a nuke. Like we were watching Oppenheimer, man. New Glenn, Ryan Caton said they aborted a static fire at 8 p.m. Interesting. See, can I send a source link? Yeah, sure. Get perms from the mods, Ator. But yeah, we know. Go Fever. Guys, look, like I said, if you're working at Blue here, guys, and you're out there, like, seriously, I feel for you. This sucks. This sucks. It's not fun. But this is my stream. I give my opinions. If you disagree with my opinion, you can hate me. That's fine. But just trust me. I think you guys, you'll be fine. You just got to figure out what caused this. You got to figure out what caused this. This is a problem. And you will. Like, I know they will. Now, with all that being said, static fire at 8, recycled to 9. Guys, like, look, I'll be 100% honest with you. Do I work in the industry? No. Do I have industry experience? Only from the outside looking in. Very, very, very rarely do I have I don't work in the industry. I'm not a rocket scientist. I play a lot of Kerbal, and we've done a lot of trials and tribulations there. And I did that so I can learn and understand, at least at a surface level, of what it takes to do stuff like this. Now, fellas, if you cast your mind back to NG-3, the last New Glenn flight, they had the stage fail to relight, or a single engine failed to relight, which sounds like a hard start. We don't know for sure. There was a mishap investigation. The mishap investigation was cleared. But if you guys remember, like, New Glenn, the countdown sequence for NG-3 was kind of all over the place. They were like, okay, we're good. No, we're not. Okay, we're good. No, we're not. Okay, we're good. Okay, we're good. No, never mind. Okay, we're good. We're good. And we heard stuff on the countdown loops that I frankly I didn't really understand what it meant, but they were talking about triage, and they were talking about, what were they talking? They were talking about not knowing the source of some type of information or whatever. Look, Blue is a big company, all right? They're as big as SpaceX at this point, like 15,000 strong. They're doing all kinds of cool stuff. Rocket launching isn't the only thing that they're working on. They're working on the landers, and, we'll talk more about that later. They're always working on ISRU. They're working on better ways to operate in space. They're doing all kinds of cool stuff, right? With that being said, it does very, very much seem like there is some schedule pressure here. It seems like go fever, dudes. If you just kind of look at the NG-3 flight and how the loops were all over the place, right? And then you look at this, Static fire abort, retry, thing blows up. It sounds like they're trying to go too fast. Now, here's the thing. When Ship 36, so this is SpaceX now, when Ship 36 exploded, I had a good conversation with Ryan Weber on Flame Trench, and Alex, I think Alex was there too. I had a conversation with them, and then I had a Space News about it, where I said that SpaceX should not slow down. They shouldn't slow down. Everybody said that they were going too fast, and I'm like, no, they got to keep going fast. They got to keep iterating. They got to keep going. Right? I was wrong. I was incorrect. That was wrong. SpaceX did slow down with Block 3. They slowed down a little bit and made a more refined vehicle. Less on the iteration side of things. Right? They moved to a much more standardized design than the rapid rate of iteration that we saw at Flight 1, 2, 3, and 4. Right? And they had about an 8-month downtime between Flight 11 and Flight 12, right? I was wrong. Them slowing down was the right move. I can't help but think that maybe that should be what Blue is doing. But once again, we are under a ton of schedule pressure right now. And I say we, being Americans, going back to the moon. We're under a lot of schedule pressure. New Glenn is under schedule pressure. Not just from the Artemis program, but from Amazon Leo. That's what the NG-4 mission was. It was supposed to launch Amazon Leo satellites into space. Why can't anyone see inside of the flame trench? TFR, that's correct. I've just noticed things that we've seen with Blue over the years where it really seems like they're pushing. They're trying to iterate on their designs, but they're trying to iterate with a low flight cadence, which, they're introducing all this new stuff to the booster, like new engines, like new this, new that, like you're introducing all this stuff into the booster's design, and they're not flying enough, right? Do we know if that's what happened here? Don't know. Hard to say. But we have seen them do interesting stuff in the past. My mind goes back to the New Shepard mission where they lost a tail. I believe they lost tail 4. I think. I don't remember. On a New Shepard flight. And they lost it because they decided to change something with the BE-3U and introduce some kind of upgrade to the BE-3, not the BE-3U, to the BE-3, and it ended up having nozzle burn through and blew up and triggered the abort system and put New Shepard down for a long period of time. That's... It very much seems like... Now, New Shepard, I don't really understand why you would go doing that. You have an operational vehicle. Why are you trying to squeeze more performance out of your suborbital vehicle? I didn't really get it, like why you would do that. Because they said they went and changed some engine parameters that they said they thought they would work. And I'm like, okay, did you think it would work or did you know it would work? You would know if you tested it or something, right? Like, and it clearly didn't, and the thing clearly blew up, right? I can't help but think that might be what's going on here. This thing probably had some kind of upgrade on it that we don't know about, right? And I don't know, maybe a different fueling procedure. I mean, actually, the fueling was fine. Maybe a different startup sequence. How much do we know about those Block 2 BE-4s that they said are on there? Does Vulcan use those Block 2 BE-4s? We don't know. We don't know for sure, but we do know just from the track record of the past that Blue does change things willy-nilly and then it doesn't work. So I don't know if it's schedule pressure. Probably Amazon Leo. They probably want to get Amazon Leo up and running sooner rather than later so they can get market share opposed to Starlink. That sounds right. But I don't, it's hard to say, dudes. Like, and I don't want to be a jerk to the people that work there because this is frankly an awesome project and you should be happy to be part of something like this. Like, this is super cool stuff, but also, like, you know, this rocket was coming off of a mishap investigation, right? It was coming off of a mishap investigation where the second stage didn't work. That was less than a month ago, right? If you're having a mishap investigation, schedule be damned. Make sure your damn rocket works, right? And I get it. It's easy to say it in hindsight, but after that mishap investigation, I would have gone over, if it was me, I don't know if I probably should have said this, right? If it was me, I would have gone over everything with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that everything works. Because you don't want to fail again. Did that happen here? I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I would say no. The T was structurally compromised and toppling over from the main blast and actually above the blast a bit. Then the initial blast punctured the face of the transporter erector and the blast wave inflated the T basin structure. Yeah, either that, Rockalex, or the rocket fell into the flame trench and then blew up and then blew the T. You had an explosion coming up out of the flame trench. Of course, hindsight is 2020. Bazdon, yeah, of course hindsight is 2020, but that's what I would have done. You know, a mishap investigation means you really want to take a step back and look over everything. But here we are a month later, and they were going to launch in another couple of days, right? I can't help but think that schedule pressure might be getting to them. And like I said, I argued the opposite thing when Ship 36 blew up. I was like, no, they'll be fine. They'll be fine. They'll be fine. But they weren't. And they needed to slow down. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure that that's what Blue needs to do at this point. I mean, well, they don't really have a choice. But, so you're thinking that the rocket was okay until it started failing? Maybe GSC. No. Guys, if you want my 2 cents here, this happened during engine ignition. See how the water is kind of illuminated in this shot? But you see smoke coming out the side right here. Like, I don't want to say it, and this is what I mean about the Block 2 engines. We know that the Block 2 engines work fine. We saw them work fine on Flight 3. So, what changed with this booster with no, it's necessary versus never tell me the odds? What changed? Right? What changed? Why would this do that? If you're, conceivably, you'd want to do the exact same thing that you did with the first stage for Flight 3, right? Manufacturing, possible. But we know that the BE-4s, we see a lot of BE-4s fly with Vulcan. We know it's a good design, and we've definitely seen these Block 2 BE-4s fly on the last New Glenn flight. So, what is it? I know, Finn. I saw the parts up there when we were looking at the footage. Feels like one engine grenaded and took out at least the things above it, if not the other engines too. Aqualex, that's where I'm getting really confused. The engines are compartmentalized on New Glenn. It has a compartmentalized engine segment. The aft engine segments on New Glenn are like, dude, the aluminum stringers that they have separating the engines are ridiculous. They're super thick to the point where I would have called it over-engineered a couple of, you asked me 2 days ago, I would have said, like, yeah, the bottom of that thing is super heavy because it's way over-engineered. Trying to find a good picture of it, dude.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Hey, well, Lord, do they proof each vehicle on the pad? I do believe they do tanking tests in the tank cleaning and testing stand. It's over at Kennedy Space Center. Yeah, here. This is from, I believe this is Teslarati. This is an old Teslarati article. Here. See how compartmentalized it is? There's a BE4 behind this panel right here, and then there's another one behind that, all those panels. Pick from Asher. This is Asher B over at Launch Heaven. Yeah, he had the first picks that we saw this morning. What kinds of tolerances and margins is that stuff at? Could it simply be a manufacturing issue? Tessa, we are well into the B4's production cycle. How many Vulcans have launched? 4? I think it's 4. And we have 3 New Glenn flights. And each of the New Glenn flights that did get off the pad, flight 1, 2, and 3, all had 7 BE4s in it, 7 different BE4s in it. So we're well into the BE4's production cycle, guys. If you want to sit here and say there's a manufacturing defect, I don't buy that. I wouldn't subscribe to that. The reason why I wouldn't is because this problem, if it was a manufacturing or a QC problem or something, it would have manifested itself already. Sorry if this answered already, but do you know if the payload bay was empty? There was no payload on board, Hadoken. Did somebody bump up the pressures, not beef up the separation shielding? I don't know. That's what I mean about those Block 2 engines, Aqualex. And that's what, that kind of feeds into what I'm talking about. Blue, and I don't think this is like a day-to-day thing. So like, I think, I mean, honestly, like, I'm trying to say this without sounding like a complete dickweed. And, you know, honestly, if you want to call me a dickweed, that's fine. That's cool. But we don't know these upgrades that they're introducing. I mean, they don't talk about it. I mean, I'm not saying like somebody's just going to go upgrade the rocket and not tell anybody at Blue about it. But wherever that, it's very clear that there is schedule pressure with Blue. And if there's schedule pressure with Blue, you can't, well, okay, you could. I would not employ iterative development like that or iterative upgrades to your vehicle with a low launch cadence. You know, they seem to have moved into right into upgrading the vehicle, right? Instead of standardizing it and getting it to fly more and upping your launch cadence and getting more flight data and making your upgrades based off of that. I very much get the vibe that they're shooting from the hip there just to get to squeeze more performance out of the vehicle as they go. Like, I'll be honest, there's nothing wrong with doing either one of those things, but do you want to operate like SpaceX or do you want to operate like NASA? There's no, I would say that either way is fine. But they seem to be they seem to be in the center somewhere. They want to go with a decent launch cadence, right? But they also want to, you know, I mean, a little bit more than what we see from NASA, right? But they also at the same time want to put all these upgrades in. Now that begs the question, why? Why are you upgrading this vehicle so much when it's in its infancy? Logically, that says that the vehicle is inadequate for what your needs are. Meaning that these versions of New Glenn that are flying right now are not adequate to launch like a Blue Moon Mark 1 or a Blue Moon Mark 2. Hence the engine upgrades, hence all the different changes that they introduce to the vehicles, right? Even if the engine popped, that doesn't explain the rapid fuel mixing to cause a detonation. Drew, I'll talk about that in a second. So, what's driving the scope creep on your booster? Well, it seems like the missions are. In which case, if you're birds, if like, okay, say you develop Blue Moon Mark II, right? And then you realize that New Glenn won't be able to move it. You got to slow down. You got to slow down. You got to requalify your vehicle. You don't just want to keep flying it and just introduce upgrades into the pipeline as each one's proverbially rolling down the line. I wouldn't want to do that. I would want to standardize and then upgrade from there. That's a much smarter strategy. But it seems like we're trying to, introduce all these upgrades and also, get a higher launch cadence here and scale. I mean, those two things are at odds with each other, and eventually you're going to have to slow down and pick whatever you want to do. Personally, if it was up to me, I would go for 7x2 standardization and just go from there. Get as much flight data on 7x2 launching your Amazon Leo satellites as possible, and then upgrade it. That fits with what you said above. Yeah, okay. But walk before you can run. Exactly, Loco, but that's the vibes. Like, I have no really, it's all speculative on my part. I have no real way to prove it. To be honest with you, dudes. I have no way to prove that that's what's going on or that isn't going on. That's what it feels like. It feels like you're trying to incrementally upgrade while you're trying to scale for a higher flight cadence, and that is an extremely difficult thing to do. This is how they should have transported ETs. Yeah, the rocket from the video game. Yeah, nice. Flame Trench at 25 minutes. Yeah, I got to get going over there for Flame Trench. But, yeah, fellas, I really hope Blue pulls through. Not hope. I know they will. It's just, I said when Ship 36 popped that SpaceX should keep going. They should keep their foot on the gas pedal, and that proved to be I was wrong. Maybe that's what Blue needs to do at this point. Because, dudes, that sucks. That sucks. That sucks a lot. I wouldn't wish that on any launch provider. I know that, if you're younger, kids like to pick their favorite launch provider like it's their favorite sport team or something, right? It ain't like that, dudes. It ain't like that. Everybody in the industry cheers on everybody else. And if you're younger, hear me out for a second. If you're younger and you're at least involved somewhat in this space race that we see going on here and how 21st century space flight is unfolding, right? If you're younger and you're trying to pick a team, don't. The reason why I say that, guys, is, look, do you know why everybody in the aerospace industry cheers everybody else on? The reason why everyone does that, myself included, is one, we all know that this is difficult, all right? Everybody says that. A rough road leads to the stars. Ad astra per asperta, all right? Everybody says that. Space is difficult. Everybody that has skin in the game knows that this is not an easy thing to do. The other thing, and this is an important thing to understand, everyone knows each other in the aerospace industry. We all know each other. Even on the journalism side of things. I know Tim Dodd. He's a good buddy of mine. Tim knows Jack Beyer. Jack Beyer knows Zach Golden. Zach Golden knows Ryan Weber. Ryan Weber and I are friends. We all know each other. Like, if you watch, Avid Space, for instance, that's Lab Padre, right? And you don't watch NSF. It's like, oh, I like watching Lab Padre. Screw NSF. We're all friends, right? Like, everybody is friends. And that is indicative of how the entire aerospace industry is. We all know each other. Everyone knows everyone. It's weird for such a big industry, but it is true. Everybody has rolled with some other person at some time. So, like I said, if you're a big SpaceX fanboy, don't be a dick. If you're a big NASA fanboy, don't be a dick. Don't do that crap. That's not how the industry works. It's just not. I do not know Angry Astronaut. No. I don't know him. It's a much smaller world than people realize. And, in this day and age, what you say on social media is out there forever. So don't go, and be like, this sucks for Blue. That's terrible. Haha, screw them. They're an idiot. Maybe, don't do that and go and get an aerospace engineering degree because they'll remember that. Blue Origin remembered. Jeff Bezos remembered that. No, don't do that crap. it's important that, I mean, it's very clear that the aerospace industry in the United States is not matured enough yet to really have true, full-on competitive commercial markets. By NASA's own admission, right? We're not there yet. We're cooking, but we're not there yet. We're not to the point where you could choose your favorite rocket manufacturer like you choose your favorite car brand, right? We're not at that point. The market isn't big enough. So cheer everybody on. So despite what I think about Blue maybe jumping the gun a little bit, right? Despite all that, I still will cheer them on every step of the way. Because this is important. It's important for us to get to that point, you know? To get to the point where, like, we could take vacations on the moon. That's not going to happen with one launch provider. It's going to happen with a bunch, right? Man on Mars, well said. Hey, thanks for the $5 super chat. We're all in this stuff together. That's right. So, you know, don't kick people when they're down. I see people do this with SpaceX all the time. Don't do that crap. I'm not going to do it with Blue. I've had my reservations about Blue, like once again, like, I think they might be going a little bit too fast here, because scaling a super heavy launch vehicle, a reusable super heavy launch vehicle, is an extraordinarily difficult task, right? But schedule pressure is like that. You know, just don't be a dick. Like, I guess that's what I'll end it on. This stuff's hard to do, man. It's hard, but it's tough to do, but everybody knows each other. That's the part nobody talks about. Everyone knows everybody. Peter Beck knows Elon. Elon knows Jeff Bezos. Right? Chris Kemp knows Peter Beck. Jason Kim is CEO of Firefly. He knows Peter Beck. They all know each other, dudes. Careful. Dave Limp in a meeting said Blue is going to commit to the greatest civil engineering project of all time. Said we'll be ready to launch by the end of the year. That is the last, see, rocket science. This is what I mean. That's the last thing I actually want to touch base on before we go on Flame Trench. So, fellas, I hadn't really mentioned it up until this point. Complex 36 back in the day was a 2-pad launch complex. Now, keep in mind, one pad was over here, over there, and the other one was basically right here. Blue Origin leased 3 pads, Complex 11, 36A, and 36B. All right? I don't know if you guys see over there where on the former kind of LC-11 complex up there, they're drilling piles, baby. The reason why is because in Tim's video, Jeff Bezos points, and I actually paused it on here for a reason, pointed and said they're going to build another pad right over there. And guess what? Look at these pictures. Look at this graph. They're drilling piles, baby. They're drilling piles. There it is. There you go, Flavia. That's right. That's going to be tougher to get customers. It won't, Yoda. The Blue Origin has Amazon as one of as a customer. Building out the LEO network, however long that may take, is enough to keep Blue Origin going with contracts for a very long time. But see back there, Complex 36B. They're building, and they started groundworks for building another one of these. And honestly, if it was up to me, dudes, that's what I would do. I wouldn't even bother with this, to be honest with you. Go build another one over there. Seriously, just start over, build that over there. Now, knowing Blue, they're probably going to do both of them. Probably going to start clearing debris, figure out what needs to be changed with this pad, while they're building out that pad over there. Do you have any ideas on how long it will take for them to fix this? Okay, this is the last question I'm going to answer. Well, Rocket Science just said they're going to embark on the greatest civil engineering project of all time. That tells me, if Dave Limp is saying that, that tells me that they are going to, that there is a very, very big stakeholder expectation at the top management of Blue Origin to not be grounded. So they're going to, if Blue focuses all their efforts on building pads, I mean, there's only so much you can attribute to that. Focus all their efforts on doing that and going from there. I would, I don't know. I'd say best case scenario, probably spring next year, spring 2027. If, like, once again, if they didn't have 36B right there, I would say that that would be 2 years at least, because you have to clear all this nonsense. You got to figure out what went wrong here, etc., etc. And that's why I was wondering if it was GSE or not. But either way, yeah, build out 36B and go from there. Meeting Dave, Jeff, and Jared. Yeah, Blue needs to. They need to. They gotta rebuild it. So they gotta rebuild, and they gotta rebuild quickly. It's just like what happened with SpaceX and Almost 6. The thing is, with SpaceX and Almost 6, SpaceX already had 39A, and they were already refitting it. They just rushed it. They just did it quickly. Yeah. I gotta get ready for Flame Trench, dudes. We're gonna keep talking about this with my buddies over at NSF. So, yeah, just gonna be a quick loss of signal on the YouTube side of things. Go over there and watch NSF. I don't double stream Flame Trench onto my YouTube channel. So we're gonna go offline on YouTube, but not on Twitch. Twitch will stay live. And yeah, this discussion will continue over on Flame Trench. So give me about 15 minutes to go get situated with my buddies over at NSF. I'm gonna have a couple of my buddies from NASA Spaceflight, which is a space news journalism outfit. If you don't know, we're all gonna have a discussion about this. So yeah, the New Glenn pontificating will continue until morale improves. But yeah, I will be back momentarily on the Twitch side of things. On YouTube, stand by for loss of signal, and I'll see you guys in the trench in about 15 minutes. Be right back.